to check Laura Cossing's good? Great. The committee will now resume, and we're moving to outcome 3, workplace relations. I believe we've got the officers at the table. Happy for us to dive straight into questions, or Ms James, it looks like you're paused to give us some information.
If we might just return to the Deputy Chair's, one of her questions in relation to the links in the letter. Senator, remiss of me to not have emailed the letter as well as tabled it. We're going to email it to the Secretariat now to enable you to directly access those links. The one we talked about a little earlier in relation to question 3, that response has a pretty lengthy link. It is to our website. When you put the whole link in, you do go straight to the Senate Order 15 page. It has a list of the Senate orders, and the top one there is up to 16 September, so it is pretty recent. And then when you click on that first one, you do get the document of appointments. I can also table that for you now. We have
that would be great.
We have got that, and so, but hopefully by emailing that link to you, and I do apologise, we could have done that earlier, and I just didn't think to. I was more thinking about the formal procedures in this room. Then you will be able to directly click on all of those links, and if you wanted to ask any questions about it at the appropriate point in proceedings, we're happy to take them.
We will, thank you, and I really appreciate that. But for your information as well, like the FOI link goes to the department's homepage as well. So there are a few of those that jump back there. But look, we appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Ms James. Okay, moving to outcome 3, I'm starting with the Deputy Chair. Sorry, Senator Mackenzie from the opposition.
Appreciate it. Minister, Secretary, congrats. Minister, throughout estimates, we've actually found out that at least 3 jurisdictions have raised concerns with the Infrastructure Minister about union involvement with corrupt cartel-like behaviour on publicly funded infrastructure projects. Myself having written to Minister King requesting her to assure the public and the parliament that that wouldn't be the case. She has been advised by 3 states of alleged cartel corrupt behaviour by the CFMEU in publicly funded infrastructure projects. So, Minister, have you been formally advised as the Minister for Workplace Relations and Employment?
As I pointed out to Senator Barbara Pocock earlier, I'm no longer the Minister for Workplace Relations.
Has the Minister?
I would have to take that on notice. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, Secretary, you will.
Can I just... what I think you're actually talking about is allegations of corruption involving CFMEU officials and employers in the sector. I know the Coalition only ever focus on the union, but you would be aware that if there is corrupt activity going on, it involves business figures as well as union figures, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that.
And Minister, you haven't been in this committee for as long as I have, but we discussed ad nauseum over the last 15 years the cartel behaviour on construction sites, which also go to the behaviour of particularly Tier 1 contractors. So I'm very happy to have that conversation.
Well,
Secretary, has your Minister been advised of corrupt cartel-like behaviour and concerns from Queensland, New South Wales and Victorian state governments on publicly funded infrastructure projects?
Senator, I neglected to watch that particular part of the proceedings yesterday, so I'm not as familiar with the specificity of what you're asking about as my officers at the table. I'm not personally aware of that, but the officers at the table, I think, have got more detailed information that they might share with you.
Senator Greg Manning, Deputy Secretary, Workplace Relations Group. I'm not aware of Minister Rishworth being advised of it. We haven't briefed Minister Rishworth about it. We've seen the evidence. We're aware at a high level that the relevant Federation funding agreement schedule now contains an obligation to ensure any allegations or instances of criminal behaviour are reported to the appropriate regulator as well as the Department of Infrastructure. So I assume that's how those officers knew about it, but we're not separately aware of it or Senator.
Yeah, the evidence we received was that I think it was Victoria, and I'm working on memory from Tuesday, was informed on April the 11th. So is it your evidence today that Minister King and or her department or official hasn't informed the Minister for Workplace Relations or the Minister for Workplace Relations Department of these issues?
Yes, I'm not giving any evidence about what Minister King's done, Senator. As I said, I'm only...
Well, has she written to your minister?
Not that I'm aware of, Minister.
Because you've just told me you haven't had to prepare a brief for your minister, so that tells me that nothing formal has actually been disclosed from Minister King or her secretary or her departmental officials upon concerns of a state government on publicly funded infrastructure projects going as far back as April, and that's only Victoria. New South Wales and obviously Queensland have also raised concerns. So that, I think your evidence is quite clear, unless they bumped into each other in the corridor.
Well, I think the evidence
on the way to question time.
The evidence
that would be informal, and I think degrading to the actual concerning nature of these allegations.
Well, Senator, obviously, given the nature of the particular allegations you're talking about, that would be a matter for the Department of Infrastructure and, more importantly, for relevant regulatory agencies. So,
we're going to get to that. Yes,
yeah,
agree. I think you've answered. I assumed that conversation had happened, and so I did want to know what dates the jurisdictions raised the concerns, what means. But if you haven't been informed, haven't received correspondence, haven't had to prepare a brief, I understand where that leaves you.
The evidence was that the department has not provided the minister with a brief.
That's right, Senator.
I think everything else is your embellishment of the evidence.
Okay. We'll run through the questions then, Minister. Thank you. On what dates, Minister or Department, did each jurisdiction raise the concerns of corrupt and cartel-like behaviour on publicly funded infrastructure projects, and by what means? Letters, briefings, meetings, phone calls?
With Minister Rishworth and this department? Because
yes.
We couldn't comment on what's happened in terms of other departments.
No, that's why I'm here.
Well,
if I wanted to ask about other departments, Minister, I'd go to other estimates standing committees. I'm asking this.
I'll take it on notice in terms of Minister Rishworth.
Okay, and in terms of the department?
Senator, I would only refer to Jodie Anderson, First Assistant Secretary, Safety and Industry Policy Division. And Senator, as Mr Manning said, there isn't a role for this department to be informed of those allegations. There is a role, my understanding, to inform the Department of Infrastructure. Their evidence earlier in the week was that they were advised of those allegations. I believe there was further evidence that there were some allegations referred to the Fair Work Ombudsman, and that's appropriate, Senator.
And we will be following that up. So, given that you don't know what I'm talking about, has the Minister met with Mark Irving, KC?
I'm sure I can get a quick answer for you on that.
Great. I'm sure the department knows the answer too, because they have the...
The answer is yes, she has. I don't have those details to hand.
No, they were both at the National Construction Industry Forum meeting that was held in late September, at which the blueprint in relation to culture changing industry was endorsed. We'd have to take on notice other meetings.
Okay. So can I take it that she won't have raised the issue of CFMEU corruption and cartel-like behaviour on publicly funded infrastructure projects to the Administrator?
I'd have to take that on notice because I don't know what conversation she's had with him.
In terms of briefings, I'm just trying to understand. Minister King gets information that there are allegations of corruption and cartel-like behaviour on publicly funded infrastructure projects. but doesn't share that with anyone. Would you expect that to be shared with the administrator? And you were in the role, Minister, to set this up. So is that something that the administrator, Minister King, should refer to the administrator?
Well, I obviously wasn't in infrastructure estimates over the last couple of days, so I don't know what evidence has been given there. But what I remember when I was Minister for Workplace Relations was that when various allegations came to light, Minister King did take action and did raise issues with state governments and may have raised them elsewhere as well. It's a few months ago, so I don't remember the details. As I say, I would imagine you've asked these questions at infrastructure estimates where Minister King...
Yeah, I did. And there were 3 projects, and I'm happy to table the press release. So North East Link in Victoria, Centenary Bridge in Queensland, and the Sydney Metro Western Sydney Airport Rail Link in New South Wales, which is the project you were aware of, or the allegations you were aware of, Minister.
Senator McKenzie,
I'll table.
Ms. Godden seeking to respond.
I'll table the press release so that the Minister can be aware of the issue I'm talking about.
Sarah Godden, Chief Counsel, Workplace Relations, Legal Division. Senator McKenzie, just as a general matter, my understanding of the evidence given was that infrastructure were informed that 3 sets of allegations had been referred to the relevant regulators. As a lawyer, and this can be taken up with the relevant regulators, there may be concerns about sharing that information more broadly if that could be prejudicing those investigations. So I don't know the specifics of these instances, but as a general matter, particularly if they're criminal allegations, there are very strict requirements around chains of custody of evidence and information that the regulators may be observing that may be relevant in this circumstance.
Of course, and we don't want to prejudice anything before the courts. I'm going to process within government about who knew what when. So I guess my question then, Secretary or officials, has your department reviewed any contract or project non-infrastructure related for corruption concerns?
Has this department reviewed any contract of this department about anything for corruption concerns?
Has the Department of Workplace Relations reviewed any contracts around corruption concerns?
Has this department reviewed any contracts involving this department?
No, I didn't say that, Minister.
Well, I'm trying to understand the question.
I'm trying to be really careful with my words.
Yeah,
so
I'm trying to understand the question.
What you're doing. So my question to the department, because this isn't your department anymore, so my question is to the departmental officials, because I don't want you to have to take it on notice, is has the department reviewed any contract or project non-infrastructure related for corruption?
I assume, Senator, your question's limited to contracts involved under which work is being done by the CFMEU, or are you speaking more broadly?
That's what we're trying to understand your question.
I'm not worried about the CFMEU. Like, you clearly don't know about these 3 projects. You haven't been informed by Catherine King. So that line of questioning will have to be pursued with other people because you've made it clear that Minister King didn't let you know. Now, whether you should have been let know or not.
I took it on notice. You're now presuming what the answer is.
Senator, I'm struggling to follow the question as well. Perhaps if you could re-put the question, it might help.
I'm happy to leave the question as it stands. If the Minister wants to take it on notice, I can check if the Shadow Minister would like something in more detail.
I'll just confirm that you're able to take that on notice, that you understand the nature of the question put to you.
Well, I think it probably is a question that the department would need to answer, but I think we're all trying to understand. So your question is, are there any contracts that this department has entered into?
Has the department reviewed any contracts or projects non-infrastructure related
across
that they have
government?
Concerns of corruption?
Contracts across the whole government?
Yeah. It's just a question. They can say no, Murray. Like, honestly. Well, thank you. They can say no or yes, or we'll take it on notice, and I'm happy
it's just
they're
important that we
entitled to
understand the
use
question.
any one of those three.
Senator, we finished cross-portfolio before the break, and so if you're asking a question across the entire department,
yes,
as opposed to with respect to workplace relations outcome 3, that is a question that the appropriate place would have been before the break. With respect to any contract and any sort of corruption, noticing that we do have a range of different ways in which corruption might occur in the Australian Public Service and Accountabilities. It's not something at large that I think we could easily answer. So I am happy to take it on notice, but I am taking from your non-verbal response there that you are talking about any contract across the entire department, and whether any of the people in this department have reviewed a contract with corruption in mind of any sort.
Contract or project? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
But not infrastructure ones.
Non-infrastructure.
Okay, we will do our best to interpret that question and answer it.
In terms of the administrator and the interaction that the minister has had with the administrator, has she raised any concerns around CFMEU corruption, not just within the Workplace Relations Department but across government with the CFMEU administrator?
I mean, at a general level, Senator, I mean, obviously the whole point of the administration is to return the CFMEU to a properly functioning, lawful and democratic organisation.
Yep.
And so I imagine any conversations that have occurred with the administrator have occurred in that context. But as we said earlier, I'm unable to go in. I don't have personal knowledge of issues that have been raised in any meetings.
All right. Is the administrator appearing?
No,
he's not an official.
Okay, just checking. In terms of the Sydney Metro Western Airport Rail project, that was a publicly aired project. Are you aware of the concerns on that project site? Mr Manning?
I saw media reporting about the conduct of one of the businesses operating on that site.
And did the department take any action as a result of those publicly aired concerns?
Senator, I think your question might be best directed to the Fair Work Ombudsman in the event that matters have been raised with them.
So do I take it that the department didn't take any action? They left it to the Fair Work Ombudsman?
Well, this department isn't a regulator. It doesn't.
No, I understand. But I'm asking a question, Minister.
Yeah, and I'm trying to explain why it wouldn't be the role of this department to take action.
Well, then the officials can say that.
Yeah, and I think the other factor is...
Well, it is actually perfectly reasonable for answers to be referred to a senior officer or a minister, but Mr Manning, you can continue to answer.
It's at the Western Sydney Airport, for which, we're not involved in that funding and oversight. We can... We'll take it on notice to be absolutely sure, but obviously, given doesn't relate to money administered by this department, and insofar as there's allegations of unlawful behaviour, the department isn't a regulator, so we wouldn't have taken any action from that perspective. But as I said, I've taken on notice to do it.
So in terms of action, there's obviously behaviours that regulators would do, powers that are given to them by Parliament. But actions, I guess we've seen instances this week where we can't just assume the regulators are going to get with the program and fully exercise their powers and their duties in responsible ways. And so my question asking, did you take any actions? Have you seen that? Are we following up on that? Blah, blah, blah. So that's my question.
My recollection is that concerned conduct which, if true, was clearly criminal as well, which I would have thought New South Wales Police would be looking into. But as
significant
but as I've said,
incidents.
I've taken on notice to see whether any officials had any contact with other agencies, for example, but I don't think any action was taken in the sense that you're talking about here, that the type of thing a regulator would do.
I do. You don't have powers to do that.
And I'll be rotating after the next question.
Yeah, thank you. Has the department done any assessment on whether the administrator has sufficient powers and resources to address systemic CFMEU corruption? Have you done a review and assessment of that?
Certainly, we have had discussions with the administrator at different times about the powers under the regime of administration. In terms of resources, the relevant Act, and I stand to be corrected, states that the CFMEU will pay the costs of the administration. So our view would be that there are adequate...
So is the CFMEU the one that has to review if they've got enough resources so that they can pay for it?
No,
or are you going to... My question is, reviewing, have they got the resources, and then go get someone else to pay for it? But who's assessing whether they're resourced adequately?
Under the scheme of administration, that's a role for the administrator to allocate the resources of the union. So the administrator sits in the shoes of the governing body.
That's the limited bucket. What if the administrator says, you know what, this is a bigger task than I realised, I need more resources? Or is there someone independent reviewing whether they need more resources?
Senator Mackenzie, in the second biannual report of the administration, the division's total asset value, that's the Construction and General Division's total asset value, is $215 million, with a net assets after liabilities of $161 million.
So is that what relevance is that number?
In terms of the sufficiency of the division's resources to fund the administration.
No, I'm not saying they're not sufficiently able to fund the administration. My question is, has there been any concerns and requiring additional resources?
In terms of
yes or no?
Taking action, though, Senator, I think, again, in the second report, the administrator noted, though, that they are making referrals to relevant regulators as well. So, for example, they have the ability to ensure that, say, the Fair Work Ombudsman is investigating matters, the AFP is investigating certain matters, or the relevant police force is also investigating relevant matters. So they have those avenues to refer matters to
I'm very happy.
Investigation.
They're doing their work. My question was actually about resourcing. How much resources the CFMEU has to pay an administrator isn't an answer to my question. My question was, have you actually assessed whether they need more resources?
So
I think is no, Mr Manning.
That's right. We haven't, and we don't think they do need more resources.
Thank you.
For the sake of completeness, though, Senator, I should point out that the government did make a budget allocation to pay for the personal private security of the administrator following threats to him. So that's a relatively small amount, which I could confirm on notice for you, but that's the only additional resourcing. Otherwise, it's paid for from the resources of the CFMEU.
That. Thank you, Mr Manning. Senator Pocock, you have the call. No, sorry, Senator Pocock has the call. We've been due to rotate for some time.
Thanks,
Senator Pocock.
Chair.